And Jesus faced incomparable pressures in life, and one of the best examples comes in the Garden of Gethsemane. And Gethsemane actually means oil press. That word Gethsemane means oil press. So the Garden of Gethsemane is the garden of oil pressing. It's the garden of pressure. And the night before Jesus was crucified, he went to this garden of pressure. So I want to read the story with you, and then I want to give you 5 principles that you can put into practice as you face pressure in life. Matthew 26, 36 through 46. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. And then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little further, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." And then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." And when he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the 3rd time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come. The Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." And these are the final moments before Jesus would be betrayed by one of his best friends. He would be totally denied by someone that he had poured into for the last few years. He would be unjustly accused, tortured, beaten, ridiculed to the point of death on a cross. He would bear the weight of the entire world's sin and would experience separation from God and the full wrath of God on the cross. And as Jesus goes to the garden to pray, we see a beautiful picture of how to walk through pressure, relying on power, never losing sight of purpose. We see a model of how you and I can approach the pressure that we face today and press on through the pressure to experience God's power and purpose. We see 5 ways to face pressure like Jesus. Number 1, don't go alone. Matthew 26, 36 through 38. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane. He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. Jesus took his friends with him. He didn't try to go alone. He had godly friends that knew his life, that he intentionally chose to bring through the pressure, to the point of pressure with him. And he made them aware of his struggles. He said, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death." And he asked for help. He said, "Stay here and keep watch with me." If the King of the universe isn't too dignified, self-righteous, and self-reliant to ask for help and bring people with him, then I shouldn't be either. I need to bring godly friends with me into my pressure. I need to be honest with them about the struggles that I'm facing, and I need to be willing to ask for help. It takes humility to ask for help, but this is such a good example of what Jesus did. He did each of these things. When you face pressure, don't go alone. Don't go alone. Number 2, pray, then pray more. Pray, then pray more. In Matthew 26, 39, 42, 44, going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed. A little while later, he went away a second time and prayed. A little while later, he left them and went away once more and prayed. A third time, pray, then pray more, then pray more, then pray more. This is what we're seeing from Jesus as we face pressure in life. I think one of the best ways that we can demonstrate dependence on God and faith that He really will work His power and His purpose through our pressure is by praying and then praying some more. And then praying some more, really depending on God through prayer. And not just praying, but praying with faith. Praying with a real belief that God is who He says He is, and He can do what He says He can do. So I'm going to pray, and I'm going to believe God. In Mark's account of this same story, he says, Jesus prayed, Abba, Father. He said, everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me, yet not what I will, but as you will. Have you ever prayed like this? I think it's such a beautiful picture of how we can relate to God. We can go to Him as our precious Father, knowing that He will always take care of us. We can go to Him with complete faith, knowing that with God, anything is possible. And we can go to Him struggling and wrestling and pleading for things to change. And I think most beautifully, we see that as Jesus does these three things, His hope is not in having His prayer answered a certain way. His hope is not in having the pressure taken away. His hope is in God and God alone. And that's number 3. Put your hope in God and God alone. Matthew 26:39. He fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken away from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." Precious Father, anything is possible, not as I will, but as you will. Jesus pleads with God. He's vulnerable with God. He's humble before God, all while putting his hope in nothing other than God. He's saying, take this cup from me. He's saying, please, God, let there be some other way. He's saying, if there's any other way, I don't want to go through this. I don't want to be tortured. I don't want to experience your wrath. I don't want to carry the weight of the world's sin. I don't want to be totally separated from you, God. If there's any other way. But at the end, he's saying, not as I will, but as you will. He's saying, God, this is what I'm hoping for, but this is not what my hope is in. We can hope for our situation to change. We can hope for things to look a certain way, for God to work a certain way. But at the end of the day, we rest assured knowing that God's way will always be best. His way will always be exceedingly, abundantly above all that we could ask or imagine. My hope really shouldn't be in my understanding of what will bring me blessing or joy or peace or fulfillment. My hope shouldn't be in what God gives me, and my hope shouldn't be in what God takes away from me. My hope is in God and God alone. That's it. So yeah, this is what I'm wrestling with. And this is what I'm hoping for, God. But I beg you, actually, not my will, but as you will, because I could never ask or imagine anything better than what you could do through this situation. God, my hope is only in you. And Jesus hoped for God to deliver him from his situation. But his hope was not in God delivering him from his situation. And that is because Jesus trusted the power and purpose of God. That's number 4. Trust God's power and purpose. Matthew 26:42. He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." Notice here how the story is shifting. What was once a plea for deliverance from something is now a prayer for deliverance through something. Jesus is now saying, if it's not possible, if you're not going to deliver me from this, God, please deliver me through this. He's saying, if you're not going to take this out of my path, help me to go through it your way. He's trusting that God's way is best, even when it means he has to go through extreme difficulty. Catch this. I want you to catch this. Trusting God's power and purpose does not mean we're delivered from difficulty. It does not mean we're delivered from pressure. It means we're delivered through difficulty and through pressure. Sometimes God's blessing is found not in being delivered from our difficulties, but in being delivered through our difficulties. I love the way this is said in Isaiah 43. Isaiah 43:19. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I'm making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. And sometimes when we're in the wilderness or the wasteland, it can be incredibly difficult to perceive the new thing that God is doing. But even if you don't see the new thing, even if you can't see how God could possibly work your situation out for good, even if you feel like you're in the middle of a wasteland, it is often in the wilderness and in the wasteland that God is making a way for you to experience his power and his purpose. Sometimes God's blessing is found not in being delivered from our difficulty, but in being delivered through our difficulty. Romans 8:28, in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purposes. God actually wants me. God wants you and has promised us that we will experience his goodness as we remain faithful to him. I can hold on to that. He works all things for good. Even when I don't perceive it, he's doing a new thing. Even when I don't know the plan, his plan is for good. You can trust God's power and purpose. No matter what you go through, no matter what you're dealing with, even amidst suffering and pressure, when you have what you don't want and what you don't have, you can say, the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. You can say that, believe that, and live in that truth, no matter how you feel, no matter what you go through, because you can trust God's power and purpose. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. And the fifth way to go through pressure like Jesus, press on expectantly. Press on expectantly. This is my favorite part of what we see from Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. It's an amazing, mind-blowing, epic turning point as Jesus embraces the purpose of God. After he's done praying, he goes to the disciples to get them ready for the guards to come arrest him. And at the end of the passage, you see an eager display of trust and vision for God's purpose in the pressure. Check this out. Matthew 26:45-46. Look, the hour has come, and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer. You see, what has happened here is when Jesus faced extreme pressure, he didn't go alone. He brought godly friends with him. He prayed, and then he prayed some more. He was willing to wrestle with God, and he surrendered his will to God and put his hope in God and in God alone. And he trusted God's power. In Hebrews, it actually says that Jesus depended on the Holy Spirit to endure the cross. And as he relies on God's power through the pressure, he looks ahead, eagerly pressing on, expectantly saying, "Here comes purpose." Jesus knows that as he goes into the hands of the betrayer, God has purpose on the other side of the pressure that he's facing. When Jesus sees pressure coming, he's not saying, "Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." No, Jesus is saying, "Rise, let us go. Here comes my glory. Rise, let us go. Here comes my victory. Rise, let us go. Here comes resurrection. Here comes redemption. Here comes God's love poured out for you. Here comes abundant blessing and grace for you. Here comes purpose. Here comes purpose. And I think whatever you're facing today, whatever your pressure is, whatever you have but don't want, or want but don't have, whatever it is, I want to encourage you that you can confidently say in the face of pressure, "Here comes purpose. Here comes purpose." You can press on expectantly like Jesus. Here comes purpose. That's a promise from God. Here comes purpose. God has good for you. God has power to pour out in your life. He has purpose that he wants you to experience. He has amazing purpose that he wants to work in and through your life as you live faithfully to him, as you press on expectantly amidst your pressure. You really can look any situation in the face and say, "Here comes purpose. Here comes purpose." That's how good our God is. Whatever pressure you're facing, whatever it might be, pain or suffering or loss or discouragement or delay of a dream, whatever it is, whatever pressure you face that pressure like Jesus. Don't go alone. Pray and then pray some more. Put your hope in God and in God alone. Trust God's power and purpose. Press on expectantly.